Hello, hello. Welcome back. I took an extended break. But welcome to 2021, and we're gonna keep being creative in the new year, yeah? So I thought that today we would paint this like really kind of abstract, smushy, sunsetty kind of painting. Yours will not look like this. Mine is not going to look like this. That's kind of the nature of being abstract and using different colors and different techniques, is that it changes and evolves, and everybody's is super unique, which is usually the case with our paintings, right? That's kind of the point, is that nobody is going to create the same thing exactly. So I, like usual, I try to just use yellow, red, and blue. Those are the primary colors, white and black. I actually didn't use any black in this, so just take that with a grain of salt. Now, if you have purple paints and orange paints and all different shades like that you would rather use, go for it. I actually think that you will get brighter, you could, depending on the type of paint you have, get brighter colors if you're using like pure purple, and maybe I'll try that a little bit too, just so that you can see the difference. But it can absolutely, all of the paintings that we do here, I try to make it with as few supplies and paint colors as possible, but know that you are only limited by what you have at your disposal. So if you got one of these big sets of all these teeny tinies and you don't know what to do with these random colors, put them in a sunset. I'm sure that they'll be there. That's the really cool thing about sunset. Sorry, I can go on about this forever, but the really cool thing about sunset, sunrise, is anything that happens in the sky is that any color of the rainbow can happen, because it's all just how light is being refracted through like particles of water in the air. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I always forget my white. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to start with a bunch of white. Now, hi, Happy New Year. Sorry, somebody said Happy New Year in the comments. Now, my word of advice to you, if you're going to just, I see this particular class as very much just like, you're going to kind of follow along with what I'm doing, maybe, but you're really just going to do your own thing, and we're kind of just like coexisting and doing art together, and it's just kind of like fun and chill. It's not so much like a, okay, you need to pay attention now kind of thing. I feel like we just need to like have a good mellow hour of creative mixing and mushing of colors together. I don't know, that works for me sometimes. So I got a lot of white. My suggestion would be that you're probably going to need a lot of white. And my other suggestion to you is this. When you start mixing all these colors together, you can see kind of here, I like it, but it gets what we call muddy. When all of your paint is really wet and you're going back and forth and trying to smush and mush and commingle, which is what this is all about, there is a little bit of a balance, because you don't want it to all become this. Because then it loses its vibrance, it loses its color scheme. So you will see that I'll be bouncing around from area to area and color to color and washing my brush in between to try and avoid too much of that. A little bit of that is absolutely fine, but we don't want the whole sky to be muddy. And that's what happens not when you combine two colors, but when you combine like 3-4 colors, they get muddy. Yay, somebody's here for a live video for the first time. Welcome. This will be a fun one because I'm really not going to teach much. Just kidding. I washed all my brushes, guys. I mean, you can't tell because they still look dirty, but I washed them with soap and everything. Do I have clean water? No, I do not, but it's fine. Okay, I'm going to grab some blue. It really doesn't matter what shade of blue, like what kind of blue paint you have. I have phthalo blue, which is like generally just kind of like a good basic introductory deep blue, but there's 412 different shades of blue. There's primary blue and Silurian blue, and it really doesn't matter. It'll change the appearance of your painting, but no one will know. Okay, so I'm gonna wet my brush. I'm gonna dry it off. And I'm gonna start with some white and a little bit of blue. I wanna start really pale because in a situation like this, I think it's much easier to add color and depth and layer afterwards. So I'm gonna start with a really light blue. And I'm just gonna, again, where you put it, completely up to you. I'm gonna try and follow this general layout, but it's gonna look different. So I'm just going to throw some light blue in here. And I'm gonna try, let me rephrase that. I'm gonna try whenever possible to keep my paint layers really thin because I don't want big chunks of paint that I have to wait to dry to avoid that muddy quality. Would have hair conditioner. Oh, that's actually a really good idea. They make brush conditioner. I have a really bad habit of not taking care of my supplies, which is really unfortunate because I spend money. I still get cheap stuff, but I spend money on these supplies. And then because they're cheap, I don't take care of them. And then I just have to buy more things. So really, it would make more sense to invest in better product and take better care of it. Kind of like jeans. Like you can get a whole bunch of cheap jeans and then they'll wear out on you and then you just keep getting more cheap jeans, or you can like invest in one or two like really good jeans, you know? But I don't. So yeah, the hair conditioner, I don't know what that would do to a synthetic brush. I don't know. I wonder if he had you using like real hair brushes. But hair conditioner, that's interesting. I'll have to try that. So I'm just like, I'm not painting the whole background blue because then I'm gonna have to wait for it to dry and that's annoying and I don't wanna do that. So I'm just kind of like strategically putting some blue. And now I have a guide here to go off of to have a kind of idea. But if you want to do something a little different, you can make it up. Like every sunset, every sky is different. You don't need a photographic reference to go off of. You could just throw your blue up there wherever you want and then work around it with your other colors and it'll still be really cool and unique. And then what I'm going to do is I have some areas of blue and I can go back in and add more blue later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clean my brush off on my canvas here, just get some of that off. But with my dirty blue brush, I'm going to grab some more white and just like around the edges, I'm going to throw some white and I do want to blend it up into the blue. So it all will just like become various shades of light blue. But as you go down, I'm going to just add more white here. So it's a subtle fade. Oh, you can really see that well on the monitor. Okay, so it is like a subtle fade from a light blue to a white. This is going to give us a little buffer when we blend our colors. So it's not like for example here, if I just put this yellow right on top of blue, it would all be green. There's definitely a little bit of green tone there, but I want some like bright, vibrant yellow. So just doing that. And you can do the same thing on any area of blue you want to have a more subtle transition. So adding that white as like a buffer zone. And again, blending it in and up. And just like something to keep in mind as you're doing this is that it's not going to look like this. Like you're really just creating your own thing, your own world, your own atmosphere. I've already kind of abandoned that. That lasted all of 3 seconds. But we'll see. I think it's just more fun when you play with things like this, you know? I'm gonna put a little white on the top of this one too, maybe a little here. Also, again, I'm just sticking with a pretty thin layer of paint and really kind of moving it around and blending it and softening it. I really like, there's a couple different like versions of sunsets and sunrises that you can do, and some of them are very like chunky clouds that you can clearly define their edges, and some of them are really soft and wispy. I know that those are two different types of clouds. Like, I know that they have different names, cumulus, nimbus, and stratus. But anyway, when it comes to paint texture, I really like the mushy. I'm a fan of the mushy. It is actually more difficult though, because of that muddiness that can happen. So just keep that in mind. Okay, that's cool. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush now. And then I'm going to get myself some yellow and red, which are the other two primary colors. I actually just did a commission for somebody who follows me, so I can't spill too many beans, but I just did a commission and I ended up using mostly the secondary colors, which are green, orange, and purple. And I loved it, and I think I'm going to do more with those colors. So maybe I will kind of branch you guys out and be like, hey, if you can sling a couple extra colors of paint, again, we can make those colors because they are secondary. They arise from mixing primary, so you don't have to get new paint. But it's something that I found is that particularly orange, it's really hard to get a nice vibrant orange with mixing yellow and red, depending on the shade of yellow and red that you have. So a nice vibrant orange paint is really good. This is all I have left, so I'm going to need to get some more orange. Okay, so I'm going to work on creating like a peachy color, like an orangey peachy color. I'm having a hell of a time painting with water. It ends up looking like bluish dirt path. Okay. I feel like I need more context to be able to help you. But if you want to DM me a picture, I can try and help you. I'm trying to think. I'm having a hell of a time with painting water. It ends up looking like a bluish dirt path. Okay. I think that there's probably also, what I'm picturing in my head is that you're perhaps painting blue and then painting like the frothy white and nothing in between. And there's like a lot of different variants of shade and tone in water, and probably a little green too. But yeah, if you want to DM me a picture, I can try and help you. Okay, so peachy color. I'm going to take a lot of white, a little red. Red is very overpowering, so I use red really sparingly in the beginning. And then a good chunk of yellow. That's a pretty color. I don't know if it's what I was going for, but it's pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to, in this little in-between space that I created, and it could be wherever you want. So if you like carved out an area over here for it, that's cool. I'm just gonna start laying this peachy color down. And this is gonna be one of those paintings where the name of the game is get color on your canvas, and then you could play with it and really just spend as much time as you want blending. Yes, movement, sorry, I'm responding to a comment again. Movement is really important in water. I mean, unless it's completely still water, but that's very rare. Yes, movement. So just working this peachy shade. And similarly to how I blended the white into the blue, I'm going to blend this peachy shade into different things. So I'm going to grab some more red and make like a pink. And I'm gonna kind of blend the edges of this peachy color into a pink. And when I say blend, that could look like a lot of things. So it could be really, really smooth. Sorry, okay. It can be really smooth. Or you could have a lot of brush texture, or mix it up. Play around, see what you like. There might be cause to use both techniques in a painting like this. And don't be afraid to go back into that color that you're trying to blend. So if it gets a little dried out, if you are using really thin layers, you can go back in and play. And I have a little bit of a mixture of these shades on my brush now, so I'm just kind of moving them around. Let's see, okay. I'm gonna get some yellow now. Again, still have not cleaned my brush because I'm working with all these same like warm tones, so I don't mind if a little bit of the peachiness gets into my yellow. Now some yellow down here. And don't be afraid to work quickly. Like, it doesn't mean you're being reckless or imprecise. You're playing with color, and that's what I think is so much fun. And I think once you can do that with any small amount of confidence, like you can really do anything when it comes to painting. And that's kind of how I paint. Like there have been times where I've worked on something without looking at a visual reference, and then I'm just like, no, this isn't right. Paint over it, start over. And then when you do get it right, you're like, oh, I could have skipped all that crap, you know? So I think playing with paint and color is really how you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. Don't be afraid to use a little water, like your cleaning water. I've been using a lot. I don't know if my paints are just getting old and they're thicker, or if it's the quality of my brushes, but I'm having a hard time like moving my paint around lately. So I've been using a lot of water to thin it out. That can get a little, when I say dangerous, I don't mean actually dangerous, but a little dangerous because you could thin it out too much, but it's fun to play. Okay, this area is dry now, so I'm gonna go back in and cover it up. Now I am painting over blue, so even though it's dry, it is still kind of tinting that a little bit green. So I'm going to go back in and grab some more pink to kind of soften. And then I'll add the pink over here. And you can always grab more white too. White is a really good blending tool. Okay, I'm gonna give that a little bit of time to dry. I'm going to clean my brush off and dry it off because I want to go add some more of this bright yellow down here. So I'm just gonna grab some white, just a little bit of white to mix into my bright yellow because I don't want to tone it down too much. But this yellow is very like intensely highlighter yellow. So just grab a little bit of white. I'm just going to go down here. And then you can grab some more of the white to kind of help blend it in and up towards your blue, and that's where you're going to start to get that like green tone, particularly if your blue is still wet. If not, and you like that little like green hazy vibe where it goes from yellow to blue, you can grab a little bit of water and go back into your blue paint and just softly mix them together. And it just kind of feathers that out a little bit. Some more yellow. I haven't decided exactly what shape my my mountains are going to be or where they're going to be, so I'm going to kind of let the sky dictate that, because why not? Okay. Let's see, I've got some area over here, but this is going to be kind of where I start to blend in that sun-looking guy. And I want to start to add some purples. So I think that this is kind of dried enough where I can get away with that. So I'm going to wash my brush off. And now I'm going to make a purple. If you have a purple paint that you would rather use, go for it. I do really like mixing my own purple because I can like play around with it back and forth between cool and warm. So if you want it to be a little bit more cool tone, you add more blue. If you want it to be more warm tone, you add more red. Now you can do that with an existing purple too. You could just add blue or red to it, but I don't know, it doesn't look like it's part of the same color family. So that's just like a personal preference of mine. I am going to be adding white as well, because the blue and the red paint by themselves are not going to cover anything up. Ooh, that's a really pretty purple. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna get that there. And now for the purple, I'm gonna actually start darker than I think I want, because there's gonna be a lot of play with white and blue and blending it and softening it. So I want it to start off dark so that I have room to kind of play around there. I know this isn't like a boring background where we get to talk about like what we've been watching, but I've been tweeting about it. So if anybody follows me on Twitter, you probably know I've been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am currently on pause on season 3, episode 21. So right at the end of season 3. So don't spoil me. But I'm enjoying it so far, which I never thought I would. I'm in love with Fitz. He is everything. Like he's like a fan so far. I mean, I don't know what happens in the future, but he is like what you read about in fan fiction. Like that is him. And it's amazing. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. I really find it interesting how they integrate the movie, like how the movie informs the show, but the show doesn't necessarily inform the movies. I thought that was interesting. It's a weird choice, but I guess it makes sense. Okay, I'm going to start to add some more white and soften some areas. I have not yet watched, what's that new show everybody's watching, Bridgerton? I'm probably butchering that. I want to, but I've been burned by Shonda Rhimes shows. I'm pretty sure that's a Shonda Rhimes show. And I've been burned, and I'm very hesitant. I hear everybody loves it, but I'm hesitant. Is anybody watching it, the Netflix show? Also, I generally hate period pieces like that. Like that's just not my cup of tea, but I also didn't think superhero movies were my cup of tea, and now I'm like rewatching the MCU for the second or third time because I'm in love with it. So maybe I just don't know myself very well at all. But yeah, if anybody is watching it, I would love to know what you think. Because I watched Grey's Anatomy for 16 years and then they screwed everybody over with that Alex storyline. And now I refuse to watch it. So starting to add some purple in here that I'm going to blend in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to like rinse my brush real quick, well, because I want to do it while my purple is still wet. And I'm going to get some more of my light blue. Maybe add a little bit more blue to it and start to work that in through my purple. There will be a lot of like going back and forth here. So you don't have to wash your brush in between everything. Just kind of learn. This is kind of the whole point of a painting like this, is to learn how the different colors interact with each other. So purple and blue interact really well generally. So I'm just going back and forth between them and letting them kind of smush and become, I was going to say become one with each other, but that's really we're a little bit too far. I said goodbye to Supernatural. I can't get involved in a new show yet. I'm the exact opposite. Well, here's the thing. I've been saying goodbye to a lot of shows and just not watching things anymore. And I have like a core group of shows that I care about. But I do enjoy a good like Netflix binge when all the season drops at once, because I can kind of watch it and then move on. And then in a year when another season comes out, I can be like, oh yeah, I liked that. Let me rewatch it so I can watch the new one. But like I haven't been getting into new like currently on the air cable shows. The only ones I watch are like the Chicago series, the 3 Chicago Fire, Med, and PD, and then the 2 911 shows. I guess I have a type, and it's that kind of show. I want to watch it, but I feel unsure as ancient history major, some period piece. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because I feel like well, here's the thing. I feel like it's not going to be period accurate, and I'm not educated enough to know what's not accurate, and I would want to know. Did that make any sense? Like, I don't want to watch it and naively think that, oh, this is how life works, or this is how it was back then, or, oh, this makes so much sense because blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. It's a television show. Yes, Caitlin. Caitlin was talking about Roswell, New Mexico. I loved the first season, and I was enthralled with Roswell. And then I haven't watched the second season, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I just haven't gotten around to it. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that my wild rambling made sense to you. Okay, concentrating on blending here. Like, I guess what it comes down to is that I can watch a medical drama because I've watched enough. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I've watched enough medical dramas to know what is completely ridiculous and like not how things really work, you know? But when it comes to like certain time periods or certain like genres, I don't know enough to find it enjoyable to watch somebody else's interpretation of it, I guess. Also watching Chicago Fire, but I'm toward the end of season 6. I'm not sure how. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a mood, Caitlin. I don't know how I feel about Gabby leaving either. And I'm well past that because I'm current. I just feel like there's this thing that happens, and I don't know enough about the film industry to understand why these choices are made, but there's a thing that happens when an actor or actress or person on a show decides to leave for whatever reason, and the writers or producers or whatever have to kind of leave it open-ended for their return should they decide to come back. But they never do it in a way that pleases me. Like, especially when it's like kind of clear that they're not actually ever going to come back. Like, I would sooner you send a character off with a like really well thought out final goodbye than have it be wishy-washy and like too open-ended to the point where I don't have closure and neither do the characters. So much. And that's what Grey's Anatomy did, and it pissed me off. Yeah, don't fret too much about that. No spoilers. Okay. I've kind of lost what I'm doing here with this purple, so I'm going to blend out what I just did and then move on because I have to think more about where I want to go with this. So let me blend a little bit here. Oh, that's pretty. Okay. I just wet my brush and grabbed some blue and some purple and mixed them together, and then just kind of made like a blurple. Like that. Yes, blurple is a technical term, in case you're wondering. Okay. Let's see here. I gotta work on this. So let me get some more pink. I feel like the pink is gonna be what blends into the purple. Now, if you start to blend like an orange into the purple, it could look really cool depending on how wet your orange is and what you're doing with it. But purple and yellow make that muddy color because they're opposites. So the yellow and the orange will muddy up a little bit. And it could also tone down that the vibrancy of your purple. So if you're using a really bright, vibrant purple, putting anything that has yellow in it is going to kind of gray it and tone it down and muddy it up. I like this vibe I've got going on here, though. Let's see. This is fun. See, sometimes you just like smoosh and then you're like, ooh, I like that. And then it's just gonna stay there like that. This, I have to figure out. Let's see. Looks like I added a little bit of pink in this one, so let's see if that helps. And then I'm gonna clean my brush. I'm gonna go back to a very light blue. So lots of white rather, because I want to kind of blend this and soften this transition here. That's the really, like, one of the harder parts and like the really important part about these like smushy things is the transitions, how you move from one color to the next. It really doesn't matter what colors you're using, it's how you bridge that gap. So, but that's why we gotta play, and that's why it's so much fun to play, because you can figure out how that looks to you. You know? And then what I'm gonna do here, let me soften this back up here. That needs some work too. Let's see. How can I blend this blue and this yellow? Let's see. And sometimes, like I showed you in the beginning, sometimes you want it to get muddy. Sometimes, because if you have, I'm sure you've seen sunrises and sunsets that the clouds are really thinly stretched and you get all these weird colors. And sometimes that orangey cloud stretched over that middle blue sky gives you some of that muddy quality. And sometimes you want to do that on purpose. There really are no rules here. The only rule that I can think of is if it starts to get really muddy, walk away and come back to it when it's dry. That's really the only thing. So if you start to get to the point where you're like, oh, I can't possibly blend this out without it turning into a gray-brown mess that I don't like, then you got to just kind of step away and come back to it when it's dry. What else am I watching? I don't think I'm watching anything else. Okay, so now I'm washing my brush. I'm gonna go back. I need more white paint. And then I'm gonna go back into the light blue and sort of start blending this out here. And now you don't have to blend every single thing. You can keep a hard edge or two, like, okay, I didn't keep that many hard edges, but like here is a little harder. Like right there, you can have a little bit more of a defined cloud. It doesn't all have to be super smushy mushy. But once you find a look that you enjoy, go to town. Okay. Also, I feel like it is important that you guys know that I wasn't wearing any makeup today. I didn't leave the house. I put a hat on because I didn't want to do my hair. And I went to go like put on my, like draw in my eyebrows and put on my mascara, which is just my like really easy, make myself look human look. And then I somehow ended up with a full face of makeup. So there's that. The end of The Mandalorian has sent me. I'm so like torn on whether I want to watch The Mandalorian without having the extensive background, Star Wars background. Because I've seen the first movie and I did not like it. So I don't really have any like strong desire to watch the other ones, but I do have a strong desire to watch Baby Yoda. And I know that the show is about more than Baby Yoda, and I refuse to call him Grogu. That's, or however they pronounce it, but because that's not his name, he's Baby Yoda. You do need a background. Yeah, see, some people say you can watch it without it, but I've also heard that like just the first three, like the first trilogy would be okay, because this like takes place in between whatever the timeline is. Caitlin, you're sweet. No, that would have been like me watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. without watching the Marvel movies. Like I couldn't do that. I mean, would it have eventually made sense on its own? Yeah. Or not sense, but would I have been able to follow it? Probably. But it's just not as enjoyable if you don't have the proper context and background, in my opinion. As you can see, I was working with the light blue, and then I ended up back in the purple business. Not quite sure how that happened, but it's okay. Now, in theory, if you are trying to make this look like that or like a real sky. The clouds would be like when you take a picture, if you think about like the sky and how the earth is round. I'm assuming that everybody in this class believes that the earth is round. Got to be careful these days. So it's like going behind you. So perspective wise, there's going to be clouds that are closer to you and like coming around you, and clouds that are further away. So in theory, around the edges, those clouds would be close. I'm talking, just follow me here, would be closer to your line of vision, even though they're still all very, very far away. So those would be like bigger and wider. And then as you go towards the middle or towards the sun or towards the like horizon line here, they would be smaller. I didn't focus too much on that here, but just something to keep in mind as you're blending and working with your colors and things like that. So that's kind of why it's wider back over here. Like my purples are wider, and then they like become a little skinnier as they go. Totally a giant 3D octopus. Octagon. What? It's a. Oh, the Earth is an octagon. Okay. Yeah, that went right over my head. Yeah, see, Easter eggs. I would want to understand the Easter eggs. So I will wait until I decide if I'm going to watch more Star Wars. Also, I feel like there's like a level of emotional investment that if you've seen the Star Wars, that you would go in having, and then you wouldn't go in having if you haven't seen it. So, and that's like entirely why I watch TV, is for like the emotional investment in the characters. I want to understand plot, because if I don't, I get bored. But I will sooner, like, I will only stop watching a TV show because of a bad character choice than a bad plot point, if that makes sense. Like I've written shows out that have jumped the shark many, many moons ago because I still love the characters, but like I used Grey's Anatomy as an example. As soon as they screwed over Alex, I was out. It was weird, but that's just how my brain works. Okay, so now I'm going to start here focusing on how to blend these warm colored area, this warm colored area, into this area here that's going to be where my sun kind of lives. I like how I said that and then went to a completely different area of my painting. I haven't even listened to myself. Has anyone else experienced that? You're like, okay, buddy, now it's time to do this. And then you just don't. No, just me. Okay. So let's. Well, that's pretty. Okay. See, this is exactly the point. Like, I found a color that I like, and now I'm going to make pretty things with it. Let's see. I like that area. I'm gonna put a halt on that and go back to what I said. So I'm going to figure out this situation here. And now this is in theory where the actual sun is. So we do want the brightest area to be there. So I'm going to take some white and just kind of go over that area. Now, I was just working with pink over here, so it's tinting my white a little bit pink, but not too badly. But I'm going to just blend this out into my light yellow and light blue. That looks good. I'm going to pull it out this way. And now I might have to go back in and grab some of that yellow again to tint that white so that it blends. Yeah, that looks good. And I'm going to purposely add some yellow into this glowy area. We just want it to, it doesn't have to be pure white. We just want to lighten it up so that your eye is drawn there. And I can get some of my peachy color and kind of help transition that yellow into my pink. Cool, I like that. This is where I'm still struggling. I'm not loving this transition yet. So let me see here. Okay. I think that pink is really integral in transitioning the purple into this like orangey color. So at least in the composition of my painting. So I'm going to revisit this pink and swoop it in there. And then grab some of my peachy color, which is really just taking my pink and adding yellow to it. And that's how I'm getting my peachy color. And kind of blending that in here. Okay. I can do that. And actually, I think what's kind of missing is mine was drying very quickly because I have it on a primed canvas. So I'm kind of missing some of that smushiness, some of that muddiness that I actually didn't think I wanted, but I miss it. So I might purposely make some more muddy areas. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some mountains in there. So I've chosen to make my mountains purple. You can choose a different pathway if you'd like. I'm going to do like the blue side of purple, like a cooler purple. And so the back ones, I'm going to mix and make lighter. And I'm going to let like this shape kind of dictate how my mountains go. So you want to make sure that you're covering up where there is no paint, you know, so if you, wherever you stop painting, you want to make sure that you're covering all that up. But also that your terrain is kind of unique and unpredictable. You don't want it to be too symmetrical. And then I'm just going to fill that in a little bit because I know that I'm going to put a layer of darker mountains on top, or in front rather, but when it comes to painting, it's on top. And I think doing this part, this like finally finishing off the bottom, will really help you see how the landscape is taking shape, literally. And then I'm going to use my darker purple to finish this off. So you could just paint your bottom part first, and then you can figure out the shapes of that layer of mountainage. Mountainage, is that a word? Mountainage? No. So I'm just painting the bottom of my canvas with this dark mountain color. And then I can say, okay. I need more blue. Where'd my blue go? There it is. Now what I like to make sure to do is for the front layer of mountains, I like to have them not don't follow the same pattern as the back layer, because that wouldn't happen really in nature. And I like to kind of maybe poke one up higher in certain areas, just to really emphasize that it's 2 layers. It's not a requirement, it's just a thing that I tend to do, because visually it helps break up the terrain for me. So I'll probably do that over here where it's a little lower. How's everyone doing? I haven't had anybody really any questions in the comments about the actual painting we're doing. So I'm going to take that as a good sign, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. Pretty much what I'm doing right now is I'm allowing my sky to dry, because I'm 93 to 96% there. I'm happy with it, but it might need more. So I'm giving it some time to dry by moving over to finish my mountainscape. And then when it's dry, I'll have a little bit more latitude to play. Asparagus risotto sounds delicious. You're very welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us, Melanie. And please post a picture when you're done, because I want to see it, and tag me. Thanks. Okay. So I don't know why painting things like solid colors takes me so long. I've been painting these mountains longer than it took me to paint the sky. Okay. Just a little bit. And then you can just you can add a little texture in the front if you wanted to, but not make or break. Okay. I should make risotto. I've never made risotto. I eat a lot of rice though, because I don't eat wheat. So I should make risotto. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at my painting and kind of decide where do I want to do something? Like what is not working for me? And I think right here is kind of rough still. And I really do want to brighten this a little bit more. I really like the transition from the bright yellow into the blue, so I don't want to screw with that too much. But I think like right here still needs something. Don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. So I'm going to start with white because that's a good cleanup tool. So I'm going to start by focusing some more white here, just to brighten it up. And then I'm going to grab some light blue. My paint water is really dirty, so my paint water is graying things out nicely. Oh, I like that thing I just did. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So see, this is where you can take your time, or take the time rather, you don't have to take your time, but take the time to really just kind of like figure out what is that little piece that's missing. And it's just all about kind of finessing that. And you are the one that decides what that looks like. I think it's so cool. Oh, I just made a really warm purple and I like that. Okay. You can't really tell on the screen that it's different, but it is, I promise. Okay. I think I'm happy with that thing, that transition. I really, like I said earlier, I don't have a lot of that muddiness. And I don't know where I would put it if I were to try and force it. Let's see here. So to force the muddiness, I'm going to mix my purple and my peachy color and make a like really weirdly tinted gray. Oh, okay. Okay. I kind of like that. Okay. I think I'm pretty happy with that. You can also use this time when you're finishing up to kind of just assess your textures. Like I went really smushy over here and I went a lot more like streamlined over here, whereas I went smushy kind of all over there. So maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what I'm missing. And so maybe that's what I did to make adjustments. So maybe I do want to smushy this. And you can even use your finger to do that. Sometimes it's not a color that feels off, it's a texture. Yeah, that feels better. Okay. I think you guys have the idea now. that you are in the driver's seat here. You are in control, and there is no limit besides whatever your brain can think up. So with that being said, I can't wait to see what you've created. Please post a picture whenever it's done, whenever you're happy with it, and tag me in it or you see it. Yeah, I am happy that we're back, and if you have any requests or anything, you can always, reach out on Twitter, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.